How would you respond to an intimidating patient who may be emotionally abusing you and lacks respect for you? What are some ways you can gain their respect?
Well, that can be an unnerving situation, even for experienced practitioners, but the key for a situation like that is to try to remain as calm as possible, keep your composure, listen to the patient what they have to say, don't raise your voice, and then once they're done, once they've gotten some of that out of their system, you want to find what the root of of why they're upset, why they're taking it out on you. Very often it's fear, past bad experience. So you want to be able to communicate with them that you'll work with them as a team, make sure that they're comfortable. Fortunately at UCSF, there's a very strong support network with your row faculty, your coach, and you also have the support of Dr. Centauri as well for patients who may be behaving inappropriately towards you or may have underlying psychiatric issues which may need an additional level of care.
So I think one of the biggest things when you're trying to talk to a patient is establish communication, lines of communication with the patient. At the outset itself, you try to talk to the patient. If there's a patient who's trying to dictate treatment, trying to intimidate you, let's say the patient is trying to say, oh, I'm a lawyer and I've sued these many dentists before. What you can say is, I do respect, what you have done before. I do have my own treatments. I'm going to evaluate the way that I will be doing treatment. I will come up with some differential diagnosis, some conclusions. I will explain you each and every step of the way, how I came up with that diagnosis and with that conclusion and how I plan my treatment. And then ultimately it is up to you if you want to follow through with that treatment. But the decision I will arrive at will be an independent decision because we don't want to get influenced by undue factors. So I think that's how you establish respect, that you do take into consideration the patient's needs, but you ultimately will come up with an independent decision based on your analysis and what you think is best for the patient.
So what I would do is try to ask the patient what concerns they have and try to address each of the concerns that they have as to why they're responding to the way they are. I want to understand where they're coming from and responding to me and what I've said to make them respond the way they have. So to basically first acknowledge what they say, understand that I'm hearing what they say, and then respond to what they say and attend that way. Because oftentimes what I've learned is at least this communication is that you talk over one another and you're not taking the time to listen and to provide that feedback. It's like, this is what I heard you say and this is what it made you feel, or this is what you said, this is how it made me feel. So how can we better understand each other so that we can get these meds, because we both have a common goal. We both want your oral health to be better.
How would you respond to a patient who constantly questions your experience level and skills?
I think as a dental provider and even as a healthcare provider, you will experience that many times. Many times a patient will come to you and say, oh, you look so young, when did you graduate? Did you just graduate? You can tell them, yes, this is the year that I graduated, and then you can tell them that I have passed all the requisite exams, and the Dental Board of California has provided me with this license to provide treatment after clearing all the requisite exams. When I do provide treatment to you, I will explain every step of the way that this is what is going to be. And again, if you do feel more comfortable being treated by a provider who has graduated a few years before me, and in your mind you feel that is more experienced, I can happily refer you to another provider. But ultimately, since I have been granted this license to practice, I have been deemed qualified to provide care to patients.
It's happened to me before, and actually I come straight up and told them that if they didn't trust my capabilities, then maybe somebody else would be a better choice. When somebody is like that, you're going to be at a disadvantage, and it makes you nervous and insecure. And the one thing you cannot be when you're treating people is insecure. You've got to feel totally confident that you're going to make that patient happy. So if there's any chance, or if you feel that this patient doesn't trust you, I wouldn't treat them. It's too nerve-wracking, and that insecurity can interfere with the way you treat them, and you may end up doing something wrong because of that insecurity.
I have several patients when I was practicing in Boston. having this problem for me. Okay, one time there's an Indian guy thinking that my last name HSIN Singh is an Indian name, walk into my office with his family and stare at me and say, "Oh, you are not Indian?" I say, "I'm the chief," so and then I joke with him and then calm him down, and then he said, "Okay, I'll let my kids start with you and then see how it goes." And the relationship get better and better, and then finally, before I come over here to San Francisco, they are still my patients. A lot of times the patient is because they are frightened about all these dental procedures, and it's not really attacking you personally, so don't take it personal. And a lot of times when you pick up an instrument, they say, "Are you going to kill me?" or whatever, just tell them, okay, nicely, and have a little patience. Always be genuine. Let's be yourself, okay, and then try to stick to the facts. I always believe in all these things, and it always helps, and you will do fine.
Well, you would want to remind them that they are at a student dental clinic, so they are going to be treated by dental students, and they still have patient autonomy. They can go wherever they want to go. But also let them know that there's a rigorous curriculum at UCSF. Before you started seeing patients, you had 2 intensive years of working in the simulation lab on mannequins. So you had that experience, as well as patient experience. And additionally, you're being supervised by faculty every step of the way. So they are receiving good care.
By explaining what I've done and the training that I've received, and emphasizing that I'm well prepared to do these things. And I also acknowledge my shortcomings as well, and just say if there are things over my head, I have specialists I can rely on to consult on cases to ensure that I do provide the best care I can as possible. At the same time, I would also try to help educate the patient to show what are the challenges, be real with them, so that they understand what I'm facing in order to help them provide that care. Because if through that, they still feel that I'm not experienced enough, and that's their prerogative to then go on and seek other people with other expertise. And also to at least maybe at the same time on my end to show that the way I practice dentistry is to be upfront and honest, and this is the way I engage, and if it's not compatible with something, that's one reason. And at least I can tell them I'll support them in finding another provider that can and address their wishes, because ultimately I want the same thing for them. In the end, is to improve their oral health, even if I can't do it myself.
How would you respond to a high-maintenance patient who has unrealistic demands?
I deal with a lot of that because I'm a specialist in a restorative dentistry specialty, prosthodontics. So I see, a lot of patients who are high maintenance and have high expectations. And honestly, it comes down to being upfront with the patient, telling the patient what you can do, what you think you can do, and then actually addressing areas that you think you may not be able to satisfy the patient's expectation. One of the other things I do routinely in helping with the communication process, especially with patients that I am worried I'm not going to be able to satisfy, I always, first of all, do a very thorough exam, develop a treatment plan that I feel is comfortable, that I feel comfortable with, and that would address the patient's needs, develop some treatment options, explain that to the patient, and then follow up with the patient in a letter. And tell the patient what your findings were, what you recommend, what your concerns are, addressing their demands, and then tell them honestly if you don't feel comfortable that you're going to be able to achieve that. Or if you're willing to maybe start the treatment and kind of see how it goes, maybe do a little bit at a time, and give the patient the opportunity to see how things are going. You just don't want to back yourself into a corner with a whole practice full of really demanding, high maintenance patients, because it can take a toll on the average person.